Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thank you all for joining me this evening. Mental health continues to be a taboo topic, especially within the Black community. Some people feel ashamed when talking about it, while others suffer in silence. In honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, I thought it was important for us to have a candid conversation about conditions that are impacting our community and discuss the stigmas around mental illness, the importance of a support system, and ways to manage our mental health. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Welcome to Let's Talk About It. I am your host, Toi Lynn. Joining me today are three women who are very passionate about the topic of mental health and are here to educate and empower all of us. First up, she is a fully licensed clinical psychologist as well as a nationally certified school psychologist with an expertise in the management of behavioral and psychological issues that affect children and their families. She is the owner of Temple Behavioral Health and enjoys helping her clients understand the patterns that hold them back in their lives so they might learn a new way to approach life situations. Welcome to the show, Dr. Asia Temple. Hi, Dr. Temple.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me. Next up, her goal is to empower her clients to find their own path and truth as they understand it. She assists people who are feeling anxious, overwhelmed, conflicted, those coping with change and transitions, making decisions, or struggling with relationship challenges. Her therapy approach is guided by an unwavering belief in people's ability to achieve their greatest potential and become their true authentic self. Welcome to the show, psychotherapist and certified anxiety treatment professional, Jamila Steward. Hi, Jamila.
Hi, everybody. Hello, good evening.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Last but not least, here to share her journey of perseverance, she is a mother, a writer, and an advocate of mental health awareness. But above all, she is a survivor who is continuing to create her own narrative and helping others along the way. Welcome to the show, Tira Sanders-Johnson. Hi, Tira.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you for joining me. It's good to see all of you ladies. I know everyone is eager to hear what you have to say on this very important topic. So let's jump right in. Over the last few years, it's come to my attention that not everyone knows what mental health is. Some either don't know the meaning of it or they don't think it applies to them. And when it comes to discussing mental illness, no one wants to talk about that at all. So Dr. Temple, tell us a little bit about mental health and why there's such a stigma around mental illness.
Well, yes. So thank you, Toi, for having me. I really think this discussion is timely. I do think there's some changing attitudes right now about mental illness. And, I think they're changing for the better. The first thing I think is that, because this is a topic that was kind of avoided in years past, it became really, we're only talking about things when we are seeing the extremes of an experience. So we're talking about people who are really struggling at this point. There's maybe some psychosis involved or things that seem really bizarre, maybe to just your average lay person that's not familiar with it. And so I think as we become better able to increase the accessibility of services, it used to be when you go lay on somebody's couch, I mean, this was kind of for people that have money or, were very educated or, they didn't necessarily maybe lead the regular lifestyle, so they kind of could take care of themselves in a different way. But I think as we've increased the accessibility to treatment and the ways that we can spread knowledge about things, we've been able to, decrease that stigma as we go.
That's good to know that we have other resources that we can have accessible to us now. I think also there's a lot of speculation around the causes of mental illness and why some people may be impacted harder than others. So Dr. Temple, is mental illness hereditary? Is it mostly caused by a traumatic event, or are there other factors that could lead to these conditions?
Yes. So, I personally want to make sure that people understand that at least in the type of therapy work that I do, which is, kind of like a private setting, mental illness, as I think about it, is actually a really small part of what I see on a regular basis. So the idea that someone's mentally ill, I think that's also changing. Many of us have depression, we have anxiety, we have things that are affecting us in the day-to-day. We just have stress, or maybe there's some kind of life transition going on, and it's affecting how we feel mentally and emotionally. But it's not really what I would consider a mental illness. There are people who are dealing with those things, maybe more so like in hospital settings or other types of clinics. You would find that more so now. But I think in your regular therapy office, I'm just seeing people who are going through just regular life stuff. They just want somewhere to talk it out and also talk it through without the stigma of feeling like they're going to be called ill, because I really don't think that they are.
And I agree with that, because when most people hear the term mental illness, they definitely don't associate it with individuals who they think have it all together. Those people that are always smiling or appear to be happy. So Tyra, what's the reaction when you felt like you found out when you first had an abnormal mental condition? When were you diagnosed with depression?
So I was diagnosed at the age of 13. And it was based off my first suicide attempt. And I knew that something was wrong, something was abnormal about me. But I did also succumb sexual abuse as a child, and also physical abuse. And I also have a father who was schizophrenic. So I have it historically within my family. And at the age of 13, I was diagnosed. And I I understood what you just said, Dr. Asia. But we all deal with mental illness in some type of way. I mean, not mental illness, but we all deal with depression and anxiety and everything. But for me, it's a mental illness. It's not something I can just cry away or, sleep away. It's something I deal with every day. So yeah.
And I do think that's important to make sure, people, some of these conditions do require support, where there are things going on, and it may even be where most of the time things are fine, but then there are times where we kind of, fall into a little bit of a rut and we need some help getting out, So it really just depends on the person and their circumstance. But I really think that most people who are dealing with a mental illness, some kind of even temporary, mental kind of distress, that, they can find some support for themselves, they can feel a lot better.
Absolutely. So Tyra, what's the reaction when you tell people that you struggle with depression?
A lot of people actually are like Dr. Asia. Is it Asia or Aja? It's Asia, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, Dr. Asia. I get that, where it's just we all go through depression, we all have battles, we all have struggles. I mean, that's daily life. We all go through those. And then, like, some people say it's an excuse, and for me it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse on me feeling sad or depressed. It's just something I go through. So with me, it's something that I would love my family to be educated on. And I think within our community that a lot of people aren't educated on mental illness, because we are so stuck on, it's an excuse. I was in a marriage for 20 years and he told me it was an excuse. And I've been dealing with this for over 30. So it's not an excuse for me. It's something that I'm battling, and it's a daily battle. We fight, and I try to win. But some days she wins, and some days I don't. So.
And I'm glad you said that, because, you're obviously not the only person that deals with depression or some type of, mental condition. I often see a lot of people on social media sharing their stories about mental health conditions. And one thing that remains constant is the person always following the story up with a statement that depression is real or the struggle is real, as if people are doubting the condition or assuming they're simply seeking attention. And I remember not too long ago seeing a video. I don't know, many of you may have seen it. It was a Black woman who was in the middle of the street. She was dancing in her underwear and she had a skull cap pulled over her face, and she had her shirt raised above showing her breast. And there were several cars passing her by, people on the side, recording her and laughing and calling her crazy. And I remember specifically a lot of comments saying how they were concerned that all these Black people were just standing around making light of the situation instead of getting this woman some help, because it is clear that her situation and her behavior was not normal. So I don't know if people don't feel that they're equipped with the proper resources to be able to step in a time when they see someone, behaving abnormally, or they just don't want to get involved. But Jamila, what are some steps that you think the Black community can take to understand that mental illness is real?
Thank you for the question. Thank you for having me this evening. One thing that we definitely need to do in the Black community is just normalizing that we're acknowledging that others' emotions, like from children all the way to adults, it's real. So normalizing it, educating our community, because like you were saying, Tira,
Tyra.
I'm sorry, Tyra. Like you were saying, education is key. A lot of times our community, from history, from the past, it's that whatever goes on in this house stays in this house type of mentality. And so it's so important to normalize that it's okay. If you are feeling these emotions, you may need to talk to someone. You may need to see a doctor. You may need medication in some instances. Having and learning to have family members holding those safe places so you're able to talk to them and feel that you can have someone to communicate with, and just communicating with families and friends in general. Those are some steps that I think the Black community can do to start moving into that direction. I think the pandemic has helped us starting to move in that direction, because now, you see it all over the news. You see everywhere about mental health and how mental health is so important. And so now I think it is coming more to the forefront for all different cultures.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. You know what I want to say too, that I think we can't forget that the mental health isn't in a vacuum. It's prone to the same systematic issues that any other industry or any other type of situation, deals with in our society. And so the idea that the accessibility, the attitudes about it, all of that are affected down cultural lines, down racial lines. And so it's important for us, as Black people, to really understand that and work to support our community, because there are still some problems, with our ability to access kind of equity in healthcare. And so, that extends all the way down into the mental health field. So we really do need to make sure that we're making time, taking the opportunity to protect our own, and to rally around each other, support our people, as they're dealing with whatever they're dealing with.
And one last thing, there's so much shame around mental illness or anything in general with you going through something. And so that shame sometimes silences people, and that can kill someone. You know what I mean? If you're battling with something internally and you're shamed all the time, like you're going to be all right, you're fine, you don't need to say anything. That is a really big part in a lot of different cultures that, shy people away from getting the help that they may need.
And can I chime in? It's people who speak out like I did, and they just don't listen. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear it. So,
Tara, who is the they? Are you talking about family?
I'm saying family, friends. They just don't listen. I mean, I've been battling this over 30 years of my life. I said I got diagnosed at the age of, I was 13. Mm-hmm. I'm 41 now, and they still don't listen. We just talked about it today, and they still don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I think sometimes in our community, we struggle with the idea of what we call holding space, which is the idea that I'm gonna make myself a listener. I'm not giving advice.
Yes.
I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not trying to put all my stuff in it. I'm just gonna listen.
Right.
It's listening without the judgment. That's the part of it that's therapeutic.
Right.
A lot of people listen, but then They might give you a
They
bunch
don't hear you.
Right.
They don't really understand your situation unless they're in it. And so, us learning how to just hold space for people, just listen, try to understand where they're coming from.
But I feel like that's where the education part comes from.
Mhm.
A
Yes.
lot of people can listen, but they just don't understand. They just don't know. They don't understand where you're coming from. They don't have the knowledge, and they don't want to learn the knowledge. And I'm like, I'm your sibling, I'm your child, and you just don't want to know who I am as a person. You could pick up a book and read about it, but they choose not to. So, you know.
Yeah, and hopefully some of the people that are watching that are dealing with friends or family members heard what Jamila mentioned and can take some of those steps to being educated and being better prepared to speak with and actually help their siblings or their children. Jamila, you did mention the pandemic, so I wanted to talk about that for a little bit. I know when we think about maintaining good health during the pandemic, I'm sure a lot of us can admit that it was a bit challenging. According to the CDC, the COVID-19 pandemic has been associated with mental health challenges related to the mortality caused by the disease and mitigation activities, including the impact of social distancing and stay-at-home orders. It's also been reported that symptoms of anxiety and depressive disorder increased considerably, and many have experienced disproportionately worse mental health conditions, increased substance use, and elevated suicide ideation. So, Dr. Temple, what are some signs that family members and friends should be aware of that will potentially indicate someone is suffering from a mental illness or even contemplating suicide?
Yeah, this is pretty serious stuff. So, we want to be looking out for certain things. Certainly, when we are dealing with a situation where the person that we know and care about is like markedly different in some way, their mood really isn't like it was. And the usual things that might cheer them up or might make them feel better just aren't seem to be working. The idea that the person they may say or may just behave as if they feel hopeless. Or the idea that they are having problems maybe with regulating themselves. And when I say that, I mean, are they sleeping? Are they eating? Are they taking care of themselves? Are they making sure that their spaces are livable? These kind of things that really show you whether someone is in the state of mind where they really are invested in their life. So just paying attention to those things. And I think we shouldn't be afraid to ask people, if they're feeling okay, giving them space to say no. And the idea that you can ask them, do you feel safe? Have you thought about dying? Have you thought about hurting yourself? It's okay to ask people these things. And if they say, that there's a problem in any of these areas, to make sure they're going to, interact with a medical professional to make sure they get the help that they need.
Can I add to that, Toi?
Absolutely.
With children, especially because I do work in the school system, it's really important that you acknowledge your child, check on your child. If your child is in their room during this pandemic and you never see them and they just come out to get food and go back in their room, have a conversation with them. Are they okay? Are they doing the things that Dr. Temple said? Are they taking a bath? Are they changing out of their pajamas in the morning? Are they getting in a routine for school? A lot of kids, I have seen an increase in the depression, anxiety, and I have seen a lot of parents that also may not acknowledge that that's what's going on. They're like, they're fine. There's nothing going on. What do they have to worry about? They have somewhere to live. They have a roof over their head. They have food. But it's really important to check in with your child to see, how are you feeling? A lot of times you will get those cues directly from them. They might be angry. You could see a lot of crying. And if something feels off, ask.
So can I chime in? With me, I have a son. He has ADHD and ODD. And I was going through what you just stated beforehand, like with the battles and struggles with him. And fortunately for me, because I'm at home now, I'm an at-home mom, it switched. So it changed the dynamic because mom is at home.
Right.
So he doesn't have those obstacles that some kids do have. And I feel like it has just been a blessing because like it's kind of switched. But the ADHD, I'm like, well, what happened to it? Because it almost went away.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And the ODD went totally away. So yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And I've been dealing with that. He's 11 now. And I've been dealing with it since he was like 4 years old.
Wow.
And that I'm home now full time, it's turned around.
That's wonderful.
Yes, he's an all A student for the last 3 semesters.
Oh, congratulations.
Amazing. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
We have the idea that we need to take care of ourselves also extends to our environment. So I do feel like I've been hearing those stories too, Tyra, about just, people, the quick change in the environment and being forced to do it a different way. And for some people, it's worked. For other people, they're struggling with it. So, being able to kind of just, like you said, Jamila, have that conversation, check in with your child to see kind of what's going on. The same way you would with yourself. Some of us are really loving being at home all the time. Some of us are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get out of here,
Right.
So they are the same. They have the same preferences and, things that they need in order to be their best. And we need to make sure we're checking in.
Right.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And I do appreciate the signs of being aware that Dr. Temple and Jamila did share for those that may be experiencing heightened sensitivity or depressive behavior or even suicidal thoughts. But what I do want to do right now, I do want to advise the viewers that the image that I am about to share is sensitive in nature. Tira has given me her permission to share it because she wants to be very transparent about her challenges with her mental condition. So Tira, what are the first thoughts that come to your mind when you see this picture?
It's so hard for me to look at this picture. I look at this picture and I see a broken little girl who was unheard. And I was 40 years old when this happened, which was last year. And I gave up on life. I gave up on life and I was tired. I was tired of being unheard. I was tired of feeling unworthy. I was tired of giving everything I had to give and had no more to give. It's pain. When I see this picture, I see pain, but I don't see me as who I am today. I see me as a little kid. And it hurts to see it.
Well, thank you, Tyra, for sharing and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and be very transparent about your journey and your experiences. But I know, Jamila, you just heard Tyra say that she was crying out and she doesn't feel heard. So please explain why it's important for someone who is living with a mental illness to have the support of their friends, close family, and what the impact of the lack of support could have. And I know not everyone knows what they could do, but for those that want to help, what does that support actually look like?
First, thank you for sharing that. That is very difficult, and to be that transparent, it just takes a lot of courage. So thank you, because that can help somebody else out there.
Absolutely.
When you have somebody that is suffering and they're suffering in silence, the best thing you can do is be a support system for that person by listening and acknowledging what they're saying. Acknowledgement is key. If someone comes to you and says, I am feeling like this, don't blow that off. If you're not able to be that safe person, then you need to recommend for them to speak to a mental health professional like myself or Dr. Temple, or go to the doctor, because the best thing to do is to make sure that you are having that person feel that they are supported. And by them being supported, that can help them push through whatever's going on. And it was powerful to even look at that image and to see where you are now. And then what you said about your son, I'm so glad that you are here. I'm so glad that you made it through that. And now look, you're here, you're at home, you're working, you're with your son. So think of, it's just a blessing. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And her son will tell you that God did not want to take her away because she needed to stay here to take care of him.
Aww.
So
Yes.
definitely, yeah. Thank you, Tyra, so much. I know, Jamila, what you mentioned, and we talked about the support of the family, and I think it's important to note that we can place some of the onus on our friends and family to provide the support in the time that we need, but the bulk of the responsibility does start with us. So what are some ways we can manage our own mental health?
Self-care is so important. And I know everyone talks about self-care, but I don't think some people realize how important it is. If you need to take a day off of work, then you need to take a day off of work, just like if you were going into the office. If you need to exercise, just like kids sometimes need a nap, sometimes adults need a nap. Sometimes you have to go to sleep or watch a movie on Netflix and kind of zone out and not think about what's going on. Journaling is so important. Being open to speaking to somebody not related to you is so important, because what we were talking about in the beginning, your family and friends can be supportive, but the beautiful thing about having a therapist or a psychologist or someone to talk to, we're non-judgmental, not your family member. So sometimes you can be really raw and honest in a way that you cannot with your family, because you love your family, you don't want to upset your family. And a lot of times when you're talking to them, you're thinking about what are they thinking, what are they doing? When you're talking to one of us, you can just be as transparent as you want and get raw and go through it, so then we can see how we can shift and work through everything. So I always tell people, take that self-care, whatever makes you happy. If you like to draw, whatever gives you a sense of just like freedom for a moment, do that. That's what self-care looks like.
And if I could add to that too, self-care isn't always the fun, easy stuff. Self-care sometimes is the stuff that makes you really sit with yourself and say, self, what do I need to do to have a better life that I don't need as much self-care from? The idea that I may need to move. I may need a new job. I may need to make decisions about relationships in my life. I may need to do something that is difficult, or I may need to get support to talk through the issue with someone who doesn't have any skin in the game. They just want my happiness. That's the outcome that they're trying to guide me towards. So, sometimes we need help to make some of the bigger changes that can make us, happier more of the time. We're not guaranteed to be happy all the time, but most of us probably could make some changes that would really improve our experience. And, I really do think therapy can help with that. Now, so can a good friend.
Yeah.
But the idea is, sometimes there are some complicated issues when we're talking to people that know us and love us, so we have to have a balance with that. But taking care of yourself for sure, from the big things to the small things.
And can I chime in? For me, when I was younger, I never spoke. I was never boisterous. And once I became to have a voice, which I went to to a psychotherapist, and she said, you have to speak about it. You have to speak about it. But I was always so quiet. I never spoke about it. And then when I started to speak about it, it was kind of too much. Okay, now I can't stop talking about it. Even with with everything in life, I've learned not to hold things in. And so for me, I used to hold things in, and it was killing me. And now I talk about pretty much everything. It may be a little too much sometimes, but I say it helps me like to just speak out, and some people don't have a voice. Like they really just hold things in, and it's killing them inside. And even when I look back on that picture, I was having a great day. I was having a great day.
Mhm.
Like I was with family, had dinner, and but it was certain things I was keeping inside.
Right.
Mhm.
And so I feel like that's something that people need to start doing. They have to talk about it because a lot of people keep stuff so built in because they're ashamed of it, number one,
Mhm.
or they don't feel like anyone cares.
Mhm.
And even I had a dramatic day today. But yeah, you'll find out they still don't care.
Well,
Or they care but they still don't understand. Or and I'm 40. Like we've been going through this since I was like 14.
Mhm.
You know, so it's like, well, how much do I need to talk? Like, until you guys get it. Like, what do I have to do? But, that's life. And we have to embrace it and just, at the end of the day, I'm accountable for my life. And so I know that after going through that situation I was in a coma for 2 days. And I will never not say it was no one but God that brought me out of it. He brought me out of that coma because I was not finished yet.
Mhm.
And it was no reason the doctor said I should be alive today.
Wow.
So
Maybe so you could tell your story here with us.
Testimony. It's a testimony.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
But
And I know.
think-
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Temple.
well, I just wanted to point out though what you were saying about the idea of talking about it. This is like, I mean, that's what we say, but that's actually that's the way our bodies process things that are upsetting. When we have a nightmare, especially one that stays with us, a lot of times we wake up and we spend the whole rest of the day telling people, I had this nightmare and it was like this, right? Until it becomes better, until it feels better, and we don't have so many feelings around it anymore. Our bodies know how to process trauma. They know how to get through the upsetting things because that's kind of what we're here to do, is go through experiences. It's when we kind of don't deal with them or when we push them down, when we don't express them, that, humans, our ability to have language, that's what makes us different. So this is part of the way that we're special and that we process our feelings is by talking through them, so talking about it is therapeutic. Sometimes that's the only thing people need is just to be able to talk. That's it. And we're not working a lot of magic all the time. Sometimes we're just listening.
And you can't change, obviously your family members, but that's why it's good to find and build a support system. If you're not able to get it from one place, to get it from another place through therapy. If you have a really good therapist, somebody that you can always bounce things off of, and they listen to you and they understand. And just, it has to be frustrating what you're saying. You're going back and you're going through things, but just don't give up. And find that support system with a couple of people that are in your corner, and go to those people when you're having those moments. And hopefully that'll help balance it out.
yeah, but sometimes when you're a friend, you don't want to be a burden or not feel like a burden because sometimes you'll have that friend that you keep calling and it's like it's overbearing sometimes. Like
Right.
I know it can get stressful because I don't even like hearing myself sometimes talk. So I know that the person I'm calling is like, not again. But
That's the self-care part of it.
it really takes a special person to be able to deal with someone like me. I can say that.
So we all have to take care of ourselves, right? So
Yeah.
the idea that, if I feel like I'm starting to feel like I'm in position, maybe that is, one of the signals that I might have a problem that's a little bit bigger and I need to have also a professional that I'm, turning to, at times, but also too, letting people be there for you. Everybody needs to manage their own stuff. So we also need to know when other people are coming into our space too much, where they're taking too much of our time or too much of our energy. And, we need time to kind of rest and recharge. So, we can say to people like, I love you, I want to listen to you, but I'm just not really, feeling up to it at the moment, or I need to rest first, or whatever it is. That's part of self-care that each of us have to do you know, in order to support each other and ourselves.
Right.
And I know, Tyra, you mentioned with one of your last comments that depression is a daily struggle for you. And Jamila told us some things that we can do to manage our own mental health. But what are you doing on a daily basis to manage your mental health? How do you keep going from day to day?
Well, I'm on medication, so I do take my meds. I finally found a medicine that works for me. I haven't been in therapy for about a year since the pandemic. Because, you know, life changed and the world changed. I pray, I meditate, I do devotions, I write on my mirror, I read, and of course I write. And I really try to get up every morning with a purpose. And because I'm at home now and I'm not working, I get up, I make sure my kids are good off to school. My grown one make his smoothie every day. I make sure the house is clean. I do the daily things that I literally had not done for like 3 years because I was in a deep depression for like 3 years. So now that I'm out of that depression, I have to make up my time that my kids miss from me. So I am solely taking care of my kids and my household.
That's good that you're finding that balance to get back on your daily activities and to do something that makes yourself feel good. So I'm happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Temple, Tyra has mentioned that she struggled with depression since childhood. So even after being medicated and seeking professional help, she still battles with this illness as an adult. So is mental illness a permanent diagnosis, or can one fully recover with the proper treatment?
I think it depends is kind of the answer. You know, because our range of what we define as mental illness, because that has been changing, like some of these answers are going to change. And so obviously, if you're dealing with things that are maybe more related to some kind of adjustment, or you're going through some kind of transition in your life, those things have potential to turn all the way around. If you're dealing with something decently specific, like maybe I have fear of public speaking, or maybe I'm afraid of driving because I was in an accident, you know, these are things that definitely with the right person and getting some exposure and working through, you can definitely make those things usually disappear or really minimize to the point where they're not an issue. There are some concerns that tend to stay with us. You know, if we tend towards anxiety, we're probably always going to tend towards anxiety. If I'm a personality that gets to be depressed decently easily, I'm probably always going to be a little melancholy, a little tendency to be sad. And I'm going to have to watch that and make sure that I'm taking care of myself before symptoms become kind of out of control. And so really, I think for most people, they can probably expect they'll deal with some kind of mental concern at some point in their life, you know, because we all have stuff that goes on and we all have reactions to it that are totally appropriate, you know. But for others of us, we'll need a little bit more support. We'll need to have maybe a consistent therapist, or maybe we need to be working with a doctor to have a medication piece involved. But most of the time, people can expect they can live a very normal, you know, full life, full of whatever it is they want to have in it, as long as they're getting the right amount of support for themselves. So, and I don't know, Jamila, if you have anything you want to say about it, but that's kind of the way I feel about things.
No, I would piggyback and say basically the same thing that Dr. Temple said with that. I agree.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Now, Tara, I know you mentioned earlier that you never talked about your mental condition as a child, and you went to see a psychotherapist who told you that you need to be more vocal. So was that the turning point that made you want to talk about your mental illness, or was there something else that made you think that it was actually time for you to start potentially helping other people that may be going through the same situation?
No. When I saw the psychotherapist in the 8th grade, I was totally not listening to anything they told me. But it was kind of like in the back of my head. So I didn't get boisterous, honestly, until I was in my 20s. And it was just because life experiences kept happening, and it was like, okay, it's time for Tyra to be heard. And I haven't been able to shut up since, honestly. Like, I don't know if it was a blessing or a curse for the doctor to tell me to just do that. But yeah. And I just feel like me speaking about my emotions and how I feel like it has helped me. It may have hurt a lot of people, because when you have certain things that has happened in your life and you address the situations with some of the people who have hurt you in your life, they don't want to hear that. The family don't want to hear it. But for me, it's helpful. It's helpful for me. And I'm going to continue to tell my story. I'm going to continue to speak about mental illness, because it's a very important topic, and and try to not hurt along the way.
Absolutely. So what's next for you? What do you hope will come out of you sharing your story?
If I can help one person, I so thank you for putting me on this platform, but this is only the beginning for me. I have a story to tell, and if I could just help one person come out of the turmoil and come out triumphant in this battle, because it is a daily battle. It's a daily struggle. And she is I and I am her. I fight her every day. I wake up in the morning every day and I look in the mirror and me and her talk. And it's like, who gonna win today? And I try to beat her. She my twin. I had to learn to embrace the depression side of me. And I try to beat her ass every day. But sometimes she wins. And so I feel like that's how a lot of people feel when you're going through this. So what I want to get out of it is I want to be triumphant. I want to win. I want to teach somebody else to be able to win. I want to let them know that it's okay. It's nothing wrong with you. And I just want people to just educate themselves and just embrace you, because it's just, we all go through it. Everybody deals with depression. It doesn't have to be diagnosed. I was just diagnosed with it. But I feel like we all deal with it in some different terms. Yeah.
Well, I can definitely tell you that I think that you are going to impact a lot of people and help a lot of people. I just want to read you a couple of comments.
You started breaking up. Sorry. I'm back.
Is everything okay?
I'm sorry.
Okay. I just wanted to pause for a second and read a couple of comments.
I'm back. What? I couldn't hear you. The phone was breaking up. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. I just wanted to read a couple of comments that are coming in. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. A couple of comments that are coming in just to reiterate the fact that you are helping people. Someone said, so glad that you shared this, Tyra. You are so strong, and thank God you're still here. God did not let you die because there's more for you. You using your voice today is helping people more than you know. The resources, both from Dr. Temple and Jamila, explain the material very well in everyday layman terms. Thank you very much for this timely subject. That should let you know that this conversation was much needed and that you have touched a lot of people, and those that are watching will surely take everything that all of you ladies have said to heart. So Dr. Temple, can you tell the audience where they're able to find you and information about your health facility?
Yes. So, okay. Well, we're located in Farmington Hills, even though everybody's virtual at the moment. But our group is Temple Behavioral Health, and there are several clinicians working out of the office, which Jamila is one of them. I love her. Thank you. And so you can reach us at www.tbhpc.com, Temple Behavioral Health PC.com. And I believe you're scrolling the number here, but it's 248-469-2476.
Awesome. Thank you. And Ms. Jamila, is there any final words that you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yes, thank you so much for having us this evening. Like the people said out there, this was a very, very much needed discussion. Thank you for everyone being so transparent, Tira and Dr. Temple and Toi. And the most important thing I want people to take from this, you do not have to suffer in silence. If you need help and it's beyond going to a friend or a family member, reach out to one of us, reach out to somebody and let a professional maybe guide you on what you're going through. I don't want anyone to think that because they're battling something, they're going crazy. Everyone, like Dr. Temple said, they go through things. I go through things, and I'm a therapist. Everyone goes through things. It is normal. And so if you're feeling out of control, there are people that are trained professionals that can help. And it's so important. I know, Tira, you said you had a therapist when you were younger, you didn't really connect. It's so important to find that therapist that you connect with. When you find a therapist that you connect with, it's the most beautiful relationship that you can ever have with someone.
It really is.
It's so powerful. So I hope that you find that professional. You know, if you feel like you can seek one of us or anybody, I want you to make sure that you have somebody that you can go to, that you can talk through things. It's so important to have that extra layer of support. Mm-hmm. We all have to work together.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Ms. Tira, any final words you'd like to leave our audience with?
Just stay prayed up, honestly. And use the tools that God has provided us to use. I'm really big on that. And create your own narrative. Your past, your present does not have to create your own life. You can create it yourself. So create your own narrative and just continue to be positive.
Yes.
Rock it.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, again, Dr. Temple, Jamila, and Tira, I thank you ladies for joining me today to have this much-needed discussion. I hope everyone who's watching or listening has a better understanding of ways to manage your mental health and will take the necessary steps to equip yourselves with the proper tools to ensure you are seeking assistance when needed and moving forward to being the best version of yourself. Remember to check on your strong friends and know that it's okay to not be okay. So until next time, please, peace and blessings, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.